Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back in to another episode of Sports Talk Chicago. I am Joey Christopoulos. You can follow me on socials at Joey Sports Guy. Thank you so much for tuning into the show today. I'm going to be talking a little Chicago Bears. I'm going to be talking a little baseball. Thank you so much for listening, whether you're getting this on your audio only with your podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you want, Google, keyword Sports Talk Chicago. You will find us. Thank you so much for watching here on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Do what you got to do. I appreciate your support. Or want to thank all of our wonderful radio affiliates across the great state of Illinois broadcasting Sports Talk Chicago today. 98.3 The Life, WKAN, W55 The Ticket, ACTV, JED-TV, WJOB, Cities 92.9 Talk FM, or 101.1 Peoria Sports Radio. Again, you can follow me at Joey Sports Guy on socials. You can follow us, Sports Talk Shy, on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, so on and so forth. Give us a follow, hang along. Really appreciate it. I've been filling in for John the last couple of months here. Just want to thank everybody that's been watching, listening, supporting, commenting. I do really appreciate it. I know it isn't easy. I know there are a lot of big fans of John out there, and I appreciate you guys giving me a chance to just listen, to just support, hear what I have to say, understand that I am on the level. I'm a huge, passionate Chicago sports fan. That isn't going away anytime soon. And look, here's the other deal, everybody, is that the summertime, I'm not the only one that you're listening to when it comes to sports. And if you are, thank you very much. But when it comes to summertime, we really do have to dig out the shovel sometimes and really dig up some sports talk topics to talk about during this time, especially when you've got a White Sox team that is historically terrible and a Chicago Cubs team that is incredibly disappointing. So I appreciate you coming in and week out, because here's the other deal, is that while you've been hanging in there, we've been thirsty in this town. Chicago sports, it ain't great shakes right now, but next week, rookies report to NFL training camp. That's right, the Chicago Bears. They're coming back next week. It all starts next week. I'm so excited throughout the month of August. I'm hoping to have some guests on. Chicago Bears are going to be on Hard Knocks. I'm hoping to do some recaps of those episodes. I'm going to go step by step with all that process. I can't wait. So hang tight. It's coming, people. Just one more week, and then we can start the football clock and the football calendar. Now, as of right now of this taping, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze have not signed their rookie contracts yet. I am one of those people that is not worried. It doesn't make any sense for either of those players to hold out at this particular time. Again, with Caleb Williams, there's always this side reporting going on with Caleb Williams. There's always a group of people that are going to keep saying Caleb wants to do things differently. Everything that he does, he wants to be different about it. He wants the avocado toast, but he puts the avocado under the toast. I get it. We've seen it with Roquan Smith before, where he has negotiated for himself with this rookie contract. He ended up holding out at the time because him and the Chicago Bears wanted to clarify some offsetting language. I think it was particularly specific to injuries with Roquan Smith's situation. People are speculating, maybe anticipating Caleb Williams could also get into that game as well. I tell you guys, I'm not buying it for a second. It does nobody any favors up at Hallis Hall. Ryan Poles, the Chicago Bears organization, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, to have a drawn-out contractual process to start training camp. They have Hard Knocks coming in, wheels up, with cameras, with lights, coming in probably starting next week to film. I think it's probably more advantageous that we haven't heard anything, because the Chicago Bears are waiting to have those contracts signed maybe when the cameras are rolling and turn it into a moment. I'm not worried about it. I hope Bears fans aren't worried about it either. I would be shocked if Caleb Williams holds out for 15 minutes of training camp. If it happens, I'm not going to chuck him to the side of the road. Again, I think every single snap in training camp is incredibly important for not just Caleb Williams, but the Bears offense, this Bears team, Coach Matt Eberflus. You know, look, they're not going to win the Super Bowl this year, but this is a big year. We call this a tone setter type of year. Even if it is a rookie season for Caleb Williams, this could be a tone setter for the next several seasons, and hopefully Caleb Williams' case, the next decade. So on today's episode, what I kind of want to dive into a little bit is I want to do a little summer dreaming. I want to talk about the what ifs. And I'm going to get this wrong, but ifs and buts for candies and nuts, I get it all. And I like to live grounded. I like to live in the present. I like to live in the reality. But you know what? It's the summertime right now. We're all getting too much sunshine. We're all bored out of our minds with these bad baseball teams. We're hankering for some Bears talk right now. And there is a funny concept of a what if with the Chicago Bears that I don't think anyone's really dug into yet. And I think it has a lot to do with media philosophy. And I think it has a lot to do with Chicago Bears history. And I think it has a little bit to do with, I mean, look, I'm guilty of it too as well. Now, for any of you that have been following me the last month or so, I've had guests on, I've done solo stuff, trying to temper the expectations of Chicago Bears fans when it comes to Caleb Williams and his production in his rookie year. When Caleb got drafted, I think the first casual thing that came out was, well, how many rookie records is he going to break as a Chicago Bear? How many just flat out normal quarterback records is Caleb Williams going to break in his rookie year? We've said it 1,000 times. The Chicago Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer. The Chicago Bears have never had a quarterback that's thrown for over 29 touchdowns and put that 3 in front of the number, 30 touchdowns in a season. Those are low benchmarks. And I've tried to caution Bears fans that I think with a lot of rookies, you get some of these ups and downs. You get a little bit of these peaks and valleys. And I don't want to come across as someone that's being negative, because I think the peaks are also going to be very high, as well as I think the valleys might be a little bit higher than we think, right? A bad game here and there. You're allowed to have a stinker as a quarterback, especially early on in your career, and I was just trying to temper that expectation. So having said that, there is the first what if with the Chicago Bears that people are very cautious and are trying to be very careful to talk about, which is, what if Caleb Williams is great? What if Caleb Williams by Halloween or November catapults himself into the top 5, top 6 NFL quarterbacks in the game today? What if he's great? Now, I think this is a philosophy, right? If you look back in time, it isn't as interesting or cool when LeBron James gets drafted, for example. It isn't as interesting or as cool from a media head perspective, a personality that's in front of a microphone like myself, to get into the game of projecting how amazing he's going to be at first. It's more about looking at and criticizing what his shortcomings could possibly be. I don't think there's anyone, outside of Nick Wright, who already has Caleb Williams in his top 5 of quarterbacks, and I respect his opinion a lot. We rarely disagree. We're fairly aligned. I think he's a little ahead of his skis there by putting him there right now. But what if Caleb Williams is amazing? What if he's, from the jump, everything that Chicago Bears fans have ever wanted in a quarterback, in a Chicago athlete, and the things that we've seen off the field, the personality, the energy, the positivity, the intelligence, what if it all matches up on the football field and he hits the ground running? Can you imagine? I'm going to lose my mind personally. And that's the thing, is I've tried to guard myself from even thinking about it, because just thinking about it, I have to protect my heart. My heart's been broken so many times by different quarterbacks that I have to say to myself, whoa, okay, slow down a little bit here. But what if Caleb Williams takes the city of Chicago by storm? Now, okay, people are maybe in their head saying, well, what if he's terrible? What if he's awful? What if he throws a ton of interceptions? And what if he turns out to be a bad guy? Well, guess what? Our hearts will be broken, but our hearts have been broken before. Caleb Williams being a bust, it'll hurt. Oh, trust me. Oh, it's going to hurt big time. And guys like me and other people out there on social media and that do shows are going to look pretty silly from some of the prognostications and the speculation, and even this question that I'm asking right now is that what if Caleb Williams is great right out of the gate? But look, as Chicago Bears fans, guess what? You can't hurt me anymore. You really can't. The moment, I mean, look, I've been there for Sexy Rexy, right? When Sexy Rexy took us to the Super Bowl, we all knew deep down inside he wasn't the long-term answer. But dang it, we were going to root for him anyways as he rifled passes over to Desmond Clark. The big one was Jay Cutler. When that trade happened, I think everyone thought that football as we knew it in Chicago was going to change permanently. And in many ways it did. You know, we were a competitive team. We went to an NFC North championship in 2010. Jay had some good moments. Jay obviously had some bad moments, but again, plagued by a bad offensive line. Had some great offensive pieces that he was able to play with. But very quickly, even after that first season, he threw 27 picks in that first year. I think very quickly we realized that maybe he wasn't the guy. He was the guy that had a ton of talent, but he wasn't a guy that had the ascendant production and talent that was going to take you, to a different stratosphere. He turned out to kind of just be a guy, a very talented guy, but just a guy at the end of the day. Mitch Trubisky came with a lot of promise. Again, we're beating a dead horse here. I scratched my head on that one. I thought that they were taking Deshaun Watson at the time, not Patrick Mahomes. I thought they were taking Watson. That turned out to be a great move because of all the things that Deshaun Watson is about that I'm personally not about at all. They're paying him guaranteed money right now. He can't stay healthy. We'll see with the Cleveland Browns. At least with Mitch Trubisky, the guy worked hard. We won some football games. He showed some promise at times, but of course his limitations eventually. He hit that ceiling a little bit in the NFL, and the Chicago Bears decided to move on and not pay him, which was smart. They could have moved on from Jay Cutler. No, Phil Emery paid Jay Cutler. They decided not to pay Mitch Trubisky. They were smart. Justin Fields, same story. Again, I went to bat for the guy. The skills were tantalizing. But again, at the end of the day, the Chicago Bears, he hit a ceiling that the Chicago Bears weren't confident in. I don't think Bears fans were confident in. And they decided to move off on him. They didn't pay him. That was smart. And now we're here with Caleb Williams. And what if Caleb Williams is great right out of the gate? Now let's look at some of the things around it. Not just him, the player. Let's just kind of look around on some things here. Rope back around of some things that might be able to hold him back or might hold this team back, even if Caleb is great. Let's say Caleb comes out and he throws for 40 touchdowns next year and 4,000 yards. How far can this team go? Well, it isn't that simple, right? There's a lot of other things going on with this team. The one thing that's going to ruin the what if, the one thing of the Caleb Williams, we're having a barbecue, everything's great, the hot dog buns are out, the meat's on the grill, who wants cheese on the burger? Clouds start rolling in, an afternoon storm ruins the barbecue. What is it? I think right now it's still the offensive line. Defensive line, look, the numbers are terrible. The sacks were really low. We'll see what they do. Yannick Ngakoue signed on August 3rd last year, so I'm not worried. They could still possibly bring him in a couple weeks. I know that the Chicago Bears are having conversations with Connor Williams and David Bakhtiari, and I know it's summertime. I'm trying to make this fun, and talking about the offensive line is the least sexy thing that you can possibly do, but I'm going to have to say it over and over again. It is so, so important. And the reason why I'm talking about it now is that I'm hoping this doesn't happen, but if it does and the offensive line is terrible in October and we're complaining about it, we have to look back to the summertime when we were discussing it in the first place. Can't walk into a season with blind spots. We're talking about it now. If the offensive line is bad, obviously that will hinder Caleb Williams' chances of being great. I'm not saying anything very smart there. Most importantly, the thing that I would probably worry about the most would be Caleb Williams getting hurt because of a bad offensive line. But even beyond that, there's a lot to look at here with this team, and there's a couple of question marks, right? Matt Eberflus is a coach, defensive-minded coach. We're expecting a lot from this defense this year. We're expecting a lot from the secondary. We like our linebackers. We're a little skittish and a little skeptical on the defensive line outside of Montez Sweat. I love Gervon Dexter. There are some numbers from Zach Pickens in a situational role where I think Zach Pickens can contribute to this team this season. I don't think he's an every down player right now, but he can be a guy that could possibly help you. I'm hoping to have Corey Wooten on the show pretty soon, and we'll probably talk about something along those lines with the defensive line. But Matt Eberflus, defensive-minded head coach, who is he beaten? What quarterbacks is he beaten? He's beaten Trey Lance, Davis Mills, Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Sam Howell, Brian Hoyer, Aiden O'Connell, Bryce Young, Josh Dobbs, Jared Goff, okay, Kyler Murray, all right, Taylor Heineke, Desmond Ridder. Not exactly a murderer's row of coaches, which means basically if you're even in the middle area of quarterback and you're playing Matt Eberflus with what we've been trotting out the last couple of years, you got a great chance to beat the Chicago Bears. We're hoping that what if Caleb Williams is great? That tips the scales. Again, even if it's a neutral, even if you walk into the game and you say to yourself, Caleb Williams is as equally talented as whatever player that they're facing. Let's take a look. If he can walk in now, the Texans is a little bit of an early call. I'm not going to do that to him. But what if Caleb gets off to a hot start and by week 6 when they're playing the Jaguars, you can say to yourself, you know what? I think Caleb's got a great shot in this matchup against Trevor Lawrence. They play the Cardinals again. Kyler Murray, is he an equal to better matchup? The Packers, Jared Goff, even the Brock Purdy by week 14. Is there a world by week 14 we're actually giving the edge to Caleb Williams over a guy like Brock Purdy? That's the what if that I think media personalities are scared to jump into because it's easier to be critical. It's easier to be cautious, which I've done. It's harder to go out there and say Caleb Williams is going to be great. What if Caleb Williams is a superstar right out of the gate? It's okay to swim in it, Bears fans. It really is. It's a new time, and I'm hoping that I'm hoping. Oh, the 37th time is the charm with the Chicago Bears quarterback position. Again, what keeps giving me confidence on a daily basis is every time we see a clip of Caleb Williams, whether he is interacting with a fan or whether he's interacting with Bears fans at large, there's an energy to him, there's a confidence to him that I think is really special. What's running around Twitter right now is obviously the New York Giants are on the Hard Knocks offseason edition of HBO. I'll admit I haven't watched every single second of the episode, but Bears fans have been really cool about going out, scrubbing some Bears-type content out of the episodes. The first one is Caleb Williams sat in a room with Brian Daboll, with Joe Shane, with all the Giants major brass, their front office. And look, I don't think they had any illusions that, well, we're not getting Caleb Williams, but they're going to get a little time with him. And one of the 1-minute clips that's running out there is Daboll just kind of asks Caleb Williams, what is your go-to play? What is your meat and potatoes? What is your favorite play to run and the one that you think that you have the most success? Caleb gets up, immediately draws up a play, explains how one of these routes kind of seals off the defensive backs and the safeties on one side so he can play the middle if he wants to. The other one on the right side, he loves the back shoulder throw there. It's got a lot of wins. It's got a lot of easy choices, and he loves to make those throws on this particular play. It's only a minute clip, but it's pretty impressive, to be honest with you. And Brian Daboll gets this little smile on his face. And if you don't know the coach of the New York Giants, I think Brian Daboll is a guy who's tough to please. And he could be just kind of having some fun with a guy that he knows that he isn't drafting. So maybe he doesn't have the microscope fully on this dude. But he kind of smiles, and next thing you know, he sort of talks a little bit about, where does Caleb like to place that ball? And he goes back shoulder. And Daboll goes, well, we used to run this play with Brett Favre. That was one of his favorite plays to run. And they have this wonderful, interesting exchange. It's not going to make you go, holy cow, Caleb Williams is going to the Hall of Fame right away. But there is a clip later in the episode where Jaden Daniels is in the room with Brian Daboll and Joe Shane and the brass of the New York Giants. Now, to be very fair, maybe Jaden Daniels was more on the radar for the Giants. So they had to be a little bit tougher on him. But Brian Daboll starts running him through an exercise, has him draw up a play. And then he asks him to switch out these different route combinations. And Daboll's giving it to him really fast, too, to try and test his dexterity, his acuity, and his memory at the same time. And you can see Jaden Daniels is struggling a little bit to remember. I mean, he answers the question correctly. You know, what's the top route supposed to do? He goes, well, I'm supposed to throw a touchdown with it. But you can see Jaden Daniels, the confidence isn't quite there. He's kind of sort of, you know, he's running through the aisles of his mind trying to figure it out. With Caleb Williams, cool customer. Easy does it. No problem at all. When you look at this schedule for the Chicago Bears, it is not going to be easy out of the gate. I mean, I'm really curious to see, you know, when you play the AFC opponents that you do to start off the season, you play the Titans, the Texans, and the Colts in the first 3 weeks. That could be an advantage. That can be a disadvantage for the Chicago Bears. It's tough to say right now. I do like these matchups. I like all three of them. When you talk about the Texans and them wanting to take a step up, it's good to get them early on in the season in week 2. It's good to get the Colts early on in the season, even if it is in Indianapolis. And I do expect the Chicago Bears to win in week 1 against the Tennessee Titans. And if they start racking up some wins early on in the season, does the snowball effect happen with Caleb Williams? Is he really good? Is he really good? Is he really good? And look, I'm just summer dreaming here. I'm just saying what if. And what if Caleb Williams is the Chicago athlete, the Chicago sports star that we've been craving for over 20 years? Derrick Rose, we wanted it so badly. You know, Chicago-born son, amazing electric player. By that second season, dude was a superstar. Dude won an MVP. We wanted it so badly. Even after he got hurt, we still tried to wrap our arms around him and hoped and prayed that he came back, and he never did come back. Sports is it's a funky thing sometimes. And I do want to have some perspective when Caleb struggles, right? And here are some hallmarkers for me heading into training camp. The first one is I don't really care about the completion percentage on 7-7s. You know, I personally, I don't really care about that. You're going to see a lot of tweets about that. That's fine. Give us the info. Cool. Not a big deal. But it's going to be an eye test. And I brought this up before to past people. I brought this up to Nicholas Moriano. I brought this up to Mark Silverman with ESPN 1000, is that for my whole Chicago Bears life, I'll be listening to a radio hit. I'll be listening to something, and the person will ask, well, how does the quarterback look in training camp? And they'll give you this up and down, wishy-washy, middle-of-the-road answer about how, well, sometimes the defense is ahead of the offense. Sometimes the quarterbacks need to take the chances in training camp to know that they can't try that in a game. You got to fit in those tight windows sometimes to see if you can fit it in there, because in the regular season, then you'll know that it won't work out. It's kind of covering up for code for Jay Cutler threw interceptions in training camp, Mitch Trubisky's struggling, and Justin Fields won't get rid of the football. It's code for we're not going to bury a guy in training camp because you want to see how the regular season plays out, but more or less, I'm not really liking what I'm seeing. One of the ones that I'm just dying for, one of these years we're going to get it, is a reporter's going to come on and go, Caleb looks great. Caleb looks dominant. Caleb carved up the defense. Man, there's this one throw that Caleb threw. You had to see it to believe it. If Caleb can transfer what he's doing in training camp right now over to the regular season, we might have ourselves a star in Chicago. That's what I want to hear. That's going to be step 1. Step 2, obvious, but we have to say it. I got some wood here. I'm knocking on wood. Stay healthy. Stay healthy. I really want Matt Eberflus to play Caleb Williams in the preseason. I think even if just to get the cadence down in the Hall of Fame game, play a series, man. Play a quarter. You don't have to go nuts. Create some rules. Get the ball out. The numbers, and that's the other thing. If the numbers aren't great in preseason, I'm not going to freak out because we've seen it the other way, right? We've seen Mitch ball it out in preseason. We've seen Kyle Orton destroy people in training camp and in preseason. I just want to see Caleb get as many reps as he can, get as many looks as he can, get the football out, try and get a little timing, and just try and learn a little bit more about cadence and taking the snap and all that stuff that's really important. And that's going to be really important if the Chicago Bears, whatever they do with the center position, whether it is Connor Williams or whether it is someone currently on the roster, they need as many game reps as possible. The hardest thing to watch last year wasn't just Justin Fields unable to read the field. It was Justin Fields not knowing where the snap was going to go. We had fundamental issues at the center position with the snap. And I can tell you right now, for those of you that haven't played the game before or trying to understand why that's important, when you're Justin Fields and you're doing pre-snap and you're scanning the field, you need to keep your eyes locked and you need to keep your eyes up. You can't have your eyes going down, up, left, right, all over the place. It just doesn't work like that. So when the snap comes in and it's at your feet, guess what that does? It lowers your eyes. The snap happens. People are already moving. So by the time you pick your eyes back up, you're trying to track a bunch of stuff. And it gets really hard. You need a strong snap. Just give me a solid snap. Not asking for much. We didn't get it last year. Hopefully we get it this year. And that's the stuff I want to see in the preseason with Caleb Williams. The other major one, too, as well, is I just want to see how he responds to the many micro adversities in games, right? You come out with a bad 3-and-out to start a first quarter drive. How do you finish that first quarter? Do you make some strides? Do you throw an interception? What do you do on the next drive after that? Defense not playing well in the second half. You're down by 7. You're down by 10. Late third quarter, early fourth quarter. You kind of need it. Can Caleb Williams be that quarterback that says, you know what? I'm going down there and I'm getting us some points. Can he be that guy? It'll be interesting to see. I can't wait to watch. And I do think that there are going to be some moments where he doesn't play well. And we have to remind ourselves, too, that in the summer, even when we're playing the Dream What If game, which we're playing right now, that, when you lose a football game in the NFL, your week sucks. The day sucks. It hurts. The team doesn't play well. And there's a strong chance this Chicago Bears football team will lose, hopefully on the lower end, anywhere between 6 to 9, maybe, God forbid, 10 games this year. So there's going to be some hard weeks. And there are going to be criticisms of Caleb Williams. But if he starts checking those boxes, starts showing you a little bit of those crumbs, I'm telling you, if we see him have put together some good training camp performances, if we see him get a decent amount of preseason reps, and then when the season starts, if we see him taking his God-given ability and his talent and his potential and using it to switch the momentum in games early on in the season, those are going to be some great hallmarkers for me that the Chicago Bears might have that next superstar. And what if Caleb Williams is that next superstar, not just in Chicago, but in the NFL in general?